As you may have already assumed from the title, the creation of this entire video was an absolute nightmare. So what specific Xeon processor did I use? Well, I used the one you can find currently on Amazon for about $7, and it's the Intel Xeon 5140. With only 2 physical cores and no hyperthreading, 4 MB of L2 cache, and a clock speed of 2.3 GHz, the CPU was quite underwhelming. The CPU takes advantage of 65nm lithography from the Woodcrest lineup and uses the LGA 771 socket. The actual construction of the PC wasn't all that complicated, but the motherboard was huge and could actually take advantage of 2 CPUs, but I didn't feel like waiting for another one to arrive. Apart from the chip itself, I used a custom LGA 771 CPU cooler which featured a nice large copper slug at the base. Oh, and check this out, a 5-pin fan connector. The power supply, or supplies I should say, that we'll be using for one are the EVGA 500-watt bronze power supply, which should power pretty much everything except for a single additional 4-pin power connector required by the motherboard to power the peripherals and things of that sort. I tried powering the PC on without that 4-pin connector plugged in, and nothing happened. The computer refused to boot. So I ended up having to scavenge for a cheap 230-watt power supply that I could jumpstart using a jumper cable included with the EVGA power supply, and then wire that 4-pin connector up into the motherboard. So I was actually utilizing 2 power supplies. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll know that I hinted at Austin Evans' attempt at running 2 power supplies in tandem, and he seemed to be appreciative of that. The graphics card I threw in there is actually the one that's in this rig currently. It's the GTX 960 GB WindForce G1 Gaming Edition graphics card, and needless to say, it was pulling the weight of the entire PC. It took quite a while to get this PC running, but when it finally did and I was able to install Windows 10 from a jump drive, well, I was relieved because it took quite a while. We're talking about 2 or 3 hours to install Windows 10. For a computer like this, that usually takes about 20 to 30 minutes. You might be wondering why I haven't mentioned RAM yet, and that's because I have something to show you. When I opened up Hardware Monitor for the first time, I realized that both DIMMs were super hot. We're talking 100C plus. Regardless, the DIMMs were functional, and when I came to the rational conclusion in my head that if the computer dies because of the RAM, I really don't care, I decided to start running some benchmarks. First up on our list was Cinebench, and it took so long. Our score ultimately ended up being 99 CB, and I'm pretty sure most of your phones could perform better. The rig behind me is also a Xeon build, but this one scores 798 CB compared to the 99 of this 5140. Up next was Geekbench, and well, nothing exciting there. Again, I'm pretty sure some of your phones could beat that. But let's talk about games, because that's the meat of this video. I tried to open Rise of the Tomb Raider, and nothing happened. I also tried to open Hitman, and I was informed that my specifications did not meet the minimum requirements. Next up was GTA 5, and wow, I actually got into this game after a few failed attempts, but under one condition, running the game in safe mode, which meant an 800 by 600 resolution, and pretty much everything turned down as low as possible. Nonetheless, I would call this unplayable. But alas, there was still hope in Dirt Rally. Dirt Rally is a very graphics-intensive game, so I didn't expect the CPU to be as much of a bottleneck as it was in the other, well, one, but preventing the other 2 from even opening up. And my assumption was correct somewhat. The game did open and it was a bit laggy at first, but once the CPU kind of caught on to what was going on, the game did allow me to navigate to the benchmark mode and then proceed to let the benchmark run. The game was very choppy at times, and at other times the window would auto-minimize for some reason, but we did receive viable benchmark results. Check these out. So while most certainly our minimums prevented this game from actually being playable in the real world, our average frame rate really wasn't all that bad, around 20 to 30. When you take into consideration the fact that we're using a processor that's over 10 years old, it's not too bad. Okay, what I meant to say was that the CPU exceeded my expectations in Dirt Rally, but in the other 3 games, it pretty much as expected. To conclude this video, I would like to point out that gaming on a $7 processor is not recommended. While there are some exceptions to this rule, I mean, Dirt Rally was still somewhat playable, and you could play games like Pinball and Minesweeper on the PC no problem. In most cases, you won't even be able to open the game you wish to play. Sorry, fans of GTA 5, Tomb Raider, and Hitman, no $7 CPU for you. Give the video a thumbs up if you thought it was cool and unique, give it a thumbs down if you hate everything about life, click the subscribe button if you haven't already, and stay tuned for more content on the channel. This is Science Studio, thanks for learning with us.